Have a seat, take a seat. We need to start right now. Welcome back to the colleagues connected online. I hope you're still there. You have the pointer? That's good. Can you? This should be you now. No funciona. Ahora sí. So they know who you are. Okay, we start again. I'll now leave the floor to Livia, who will present our next speaker.
Good afternoon. I hope you had nice lunch. We will now go from poetry to business. And I have the pleasure and privilege to introduce somebody I had a chance to interpret for in the past, Avinash Chandarana, who has a degree in business and an international experience covering engagements in the corporate and not-for-profit sectors. As Group Learning and Development Director at MCI Group, he founded the MCI Institute, a learning center of excellence which provides a wide scope of learning programs to MCI offices in 23 countries around the globe, more or less the number of countries we have represented within I today. Avinash will talk to us about new skills for the future, and I hope you enjoy it and count on your active participation during our Q&A. Avinash?
Thank you very much. Let's see. There you go. Oops. That's okay. Thanks. It's okay. Thank you. Thank you, Livia. Do you want a second? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. After lunchtime, the hardest slot. Thank you for that. No, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much. And that picture, that was a few years ago. I have less hair now. Thank you for having that picture on the screen. And thank you for the introduction. So as Livia said, my name is Avinash Chandarana, and I am British. You might be able to tell from my accent, or maybe not, I'm not sure. I am by ethnicity an Indian, that you might be able to also see, but born in Africa, in Uganda, a refugee from Uganda. I grew up in the UK. I've lived on 4 continents. I don't speak as many languages, unfortunately, as most of you do in this room as individuals and as a collective. Although I do have a son, I'm going to show you in just a moment, Santiago. So I have also a background with some roots in Spain. And I'll share that with you in just a moment. So I've been very fortunate in my career, my life, to have had many different jobs and worked in many different industries. As Livia said, I've worked in non-profit, I've worked in for-profit, I've worked in performing arts, I've been on stage, I've worked with Beyonce's uncle before Beyonce became famous when I was in Los Angeles. Yeah, I'll never forget the day when Michael Knowles, Beyonce's uncle, said to me, Avinash, I have a niece of mine and she's about to join a group called Destiny's Child. Hopefully they'll become famous one day and that she'll do well. Yeah, I didn't meet Beyonce when she was younger, unfortunately. So I've worked in performing arts. I studied marketing and I ended up working for many years around the world, most recently in Hong Kong during the pandemic. And actually, I want to start with that because did you realize 5 years ago, how many of us want to remember this moment? We don't want to probably remember this moment. That is my son when he was 12 years. He just turned 12 years old. And I was living in Hong Kong at the time with my family, with him. And we decided that Hong Kong was the first place to be hit by COVID from outside of mainland China. And at the end of January, so almost 5 years ago, I decided to bring my son back to Europe. He was born in Brussels. He's half Spanish. He does speak 3 languages. At the age of 12 already, he was speaking French, Spanish, and English, and started learning Mandarin. But what's interesting is, as I now look at this LinkedIn post from 5 years ago, and I just looked at it yesterday, and I chose to put it in this slide, I realized how much disruption we have gone through in the past 5 years, probably more than any other time in our working lives. And it will never change. It will only continue to accelerate the changes that we've been through. I look at my son here in this picture, and the reason why I say this, look at that, when it says remote learning, 9,500 kilometers from school. Because he was studying in Hong Kong at the time, and immediately all the schools shut down in January of 2020. Do you remember the time when it hit your country? It wasn't January unless you were in China. It was in March, exactly. So when I was in Brussels from January until March, some of you even remember the day or dates. Scary, isn't it? The goal was to bring him back because we thought it's safer for him to be back in Europe, because in Europe, when I came back and talking about COVID, people were like, what's that? In fact, it wasn't even called COVID at the time. It was just a pandemic. A bit like SARS, if you remember that. And Hong Kong knew about SARS because that's where it was. So Hong Kong was really, really quick, right, in terms of making sure everything was not locked down, but at least safe. I brought Santiago back to Brussels to try and put him back into the school where he used to be before we moved to Hong Kong, just for a few weeks, while things calmed down. While things calmed down and we could go back to Hong Kong, no problem. And he was probably, now that I look at this picture, how many kids were learning, because his school went online immediately. He must have been one of the first kids ever to be online schooling, and he was just 12 years old. And he was getting up at 6 a.m. every morning to do that. And we talked about this. Even my post talked about, son, what was it like for you to interact online, having this experience without being with your friends, without having teachers in front of you? And what are you learning from that experience? We had that conversation. And to think how our world has been disrupted, and all of us in our working lives and personal lives have changed as a result of what happened there. We have gone through a massive disruption, which has influenced our behaviors, our way of thinking, our way of collaborating, interaction, and the skills that we've developed. There is no going back anymore or putting the genie back in the bottle in terms of the skills that we've now learned in how we are connecting and communicating and collaborating and working every single day. And all of you sitting in this room know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? Yes. We all do. That is 5 years ago. I just picked up on that yesterday and I couldn't believe it. It's a shocking memory. And if you think about the world and the context that we are in right now, we are in the 4th industrial revolution. Things have changed so much. In the first industrial revolution, of course, with steam, the second one with electricity, the third one with technology, and now in the 4th industrial revolution, we are looking at smart connectivity, cyber-physical, as we call it. Everything is connected. We are in the 4th industrial revolution, and things are going so fast we can't even find it easy to keep up anymore. How many of you, look at this picture. How many of you had these devices? Now it's showing your age. No, your wisdom. That's what it's showing. It's showing your wisdom, right? What's shocking is, some of you looking at like the younger ones, you're like, what's that little round thing? Or what is that? That cassette? A VHS? What is that? That's what's shocking, right? It's all right here. It's all right here. That is amazing. We don't realize exactly how quickly this has come upon us. And then where is it going from here? Where is it going? Does anyone know? Well, it's on your watch. It's going to be implanted. Yeah, I know. Whether we like it or not, that's where it's going, right? Shocking. And if you think about that context of how technology is speeding things up and how we are connected more than at any other time in history, there's so many other trends, of course, that are shaping the future of work. And of course, all of this relates to the skills that we continue to learn and that we continue to evolve in order to stay relevant in today's workplace. And those trends include, of course, remote work. Clearly, that's something that was accelerated, of course, as a result of the pandemic. It was there before. How many of you are doing remote work pre-pandemic? Raise your hands. Yeah, quite a lot of you, I imagine, right? How many of you do remote work now? Like, more. And it's only going to continue. That is not going to change, is it? It's become a boundaryless marketplace. Boundaryless. Organizations don't have to worry. I used to be in hiring for over 10 years. I interviewed 1,000 people. I hired 150 people for MCI from 35 different countries. But they were always based in one city or a region. They weren't necessarily on the other side of the world. Well, that, of course, has completely changed, as we know. And that brings a lot of opportunity, but it also brings challenges. Automation, we know now, we will talk, of course, a little bit about AI, the elephant in the room sometimes, we know, but we cannot, again, as I say, put the genie back in the bottle. In other words, it's something that we have to work with rather than fight against. Yet, that is also helping us to free up time and helping us to do tasks that sometimes were mundane or too administrative. So how is the face of automation changing the face of what we do every day and the skills that we continue to develop? And of course, again, linked very much to remote work, there's the whole concept of gig work, the gig economy, which again has accelerated as a result of the pandemic. So two major disruptions. The pandemic was a big disruption, more than anything else we've probably ever experienced. But I would say now technology and where we are today is the second biggest one of all that we're dealing with. Those two are the biggest of all, I would say. And I think each and every one of you in this room knows exactly what I'm speaking about. When we think about the workforce, demographics, what's happening in organizations, yes, it's true. We are now an aging workforce, okay? There's no doubt about that, which has an influence, of course, on the skills that we need to be thinking about. There is a greater demand for those that are more mature, wiser, to become more mentors to the younger ones in the workplace. But at the same time, maybe those of us that are a little bit wiser and gray hair or no hair need to continue to do better maybe with some of our digital skills, maybe because we're less comfortable than maybe some of those Gen Zers. Of course, there's no doubt that cultural diversity, there is more multiculturalism, and that is coming from the concept of remote work opportunities. You're seeing a lot more multicultural workplaces, not physically in one place, but in terms of the actual ecosystem of organizations where there are far more cultures being engaged because of the boundaryless opportunities that are available due to remote work, which therefore requires the skills development of cultural intelligence, or CQ, increasing your cultural quotient. And of course, we do know there are at least 4, if not 5 generations now in the workplace, which requires, again, a different set of different skills that we need to have in terms of how we can better communicate and work better together. And what's interesting is this has changed completely as well. Think about that. It used to be a physical place. It isn't anymore, especially for the Gen Zs. The Gen Zs, they're the ones that are definitely shaping the workforce. More and more coming into, is anyone a Gen Z in the room? Not yet. They're coming, right? Soon, into this world as well. They are demanding something very different. Very, very different in terms of what drives and motivates them. It is far more about authenticity, about purpose, about environmental causes, about society at large, more than just money. It is about having something meaningful. This is something we're facing as an organization every single day in our organization worldwide. So they do find value in meaningful work more than the pay itself. And indeed, as organizations, we're facing a much higher turnover rate. The average now is between 2 to 2.5 years in most companies and organizations. At the same time, there are lower levels of employee engagement. We're struggling to keep people fully engaged and active and to give 110% of what they do every single day. And there's a lot of different factors for that. And a lot of that is down to mental health and burnout, and remote work is causing not only opportunities, but also causing challenges. Because people are they're struggling to work better with one another. So we're seeing these opportunities mixed with the challenges as well, which is quite interesting. And indeed, there is a war for talent. There's no doubt about that. We're finding the war for talent in terms of it's getting squeezed. How do we find the right skills at the right time in the right place? Now, when we think about skills specifically and the skills-based economy, and the word upskilling and reskilling, which you've probably heard about before, but let's talk about that briefly. So here's a chart. I'm not a very technical person, but this is an interesting chart that shows the exponential growth of digital. As you can see, very high steep curve, and it's on the rise, and it's getting faster. What's interesting about this is that, okay, we're here on this chart right now, in society in general. This is where we are in terms of as human beings. Our ability to adapt to change. Now, with organizations, most of you here might be independents, freelancers. So when you think about the word organization, maybe it's just you, or a 1 or 2 person team, or 3. But still, it's harder for organizations, so think about your clients, for example. It's harder for them to also keep up with this pace of change. And that's the gap we face. How do we maintain our relevance with the exponential change of technology? As individuals, but also for your clients, right? For our organizations that we work with. It's extremely difficult. And it's absolutely true that there is a massive skills and knowledge gap, because the complexity and challenge has accelerated much faster than our ability to stay competent. We'll have a chance to debate this afterwards with a panel, okay, just to go a little bit more in depth. But I'm just giving you more of a context in terms of what we're dealing with here. Now, take a look at this. I'll let you just interpret the words there, but also have a look at this chart. Okay? It is true, having worked in many different industries, many different sectors, the more I learn, and I'm head of global learning for an organization of about 2,000 people, the more I learn, the more I realize what I don't know versus what I do. The gap continues to be there. And again, that's all related to the pace of change, is that by the time I've learned something, it's potentially out of date already. That's the big challenge we face. And that is exhausting. Mentally, right? In terms of keeping up and to stay relevant. And the era of, therefore, upskilling and reskilling is now a requirement. It is not an option. It is not an option if we want to continue to provide value in what we do as professionals. And this applies to all knowledge-based workers. The Industrial Revolution, when steam and then electricity came into place, had a huge influence on the skill sets and the value of blue-collar workers, right? Because of the production lines. Now with technology, as much as some of you may say, I feel uncomfortable talking about technology, although you use it every day, is that that is having a direct impact and influence on white-collar knowledge workers. That's a huge shift in terms of the white collar, the knowledge worker, which is all of us here as well, that with that pace of change, we have no choice but to upskill and reskill. But the question is, what do each of these terms mean? Well, upskilling basically means learning new skills within the same job function. Reskilling is learning new skills for a different job function altogether. So the question is, where are you at? Is it a bit of both? Are you thinking about, wait a minute, I don't know what's going to happen in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Should I be reskilling for something completely different where I can provide value? Or can I continue to maintain an upskill so I can maintain that value add that I'm giving to my clients with what I do every single day? So here's the question for you. If you've got your smartphones, or you can go, if you're on your laptop, you can go to menti.com, and there's a code you can enter. or you can scan the QR code with a smartphone. The question is, what do you think is the biggest barrier to upskilling and or reskilling for you as professional conference interpreters? We'll give about 30 seconds before, okay? Before we show the results. So go ahead and just scan. And also, all of you online, perfect for you as well, because you can scan the QR code, or you can enter that code at menti.com. Okay? Oh, great. So it's still on the right screen here. Now we can see the results coming in. All right. Well, it's a very, very clear. So the basic choices, as you can see, is, okay, what are the biggest barriers? Well, lack of time, limited access to resources, whatever they may be, to learn, not knowing the skills to learn. Oh, let's go back. Lack of motivation. Can we go back to the, there we go. It's on the other screen. Or is it lack of motivation? There could be many other answers, by the way, as barriers. I only just chose 4 for you. So look at this. We've got a total of how many votes? Look at that right at the bottom. Can we see it? 95 or something? I can't, it's a bit fuzzy. 70 votes, right? Look at that. So first, not knowing the skills to learn. Right. And secondly, lack of time. What's interesting is, in most organizations, it is those two exactly. Lack of time is also very, very high. The average professional spends about 1% of their time learning. 1% of their time, which is about 2 to 3 days a year. That is not a lot of time dedicated to formal learning to develop their skills. That is the average, 1%. That is not enough. That will not cut it. So if it's a lack of time, the question is, what will you do about it? Because we're all struggling with time, or are we? Because nowadays, the question of how we learn has completely changed from how we used to learn 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It's completely changed. How many of you listen, for example, to podcasts? Exactly. Something called Blinklist or Blinkist, yes, or Get Abstract. There's so many ways we can learn, and we have to change our mindset of how we learn and find the right time. But yet, look at the number 1 here, not knowing the skills to learn. So again, what's the first thing to do is focus on what are the value-added skills that you need to learn in order to remain valuable and relevant in what you do every day to add value towards your clients. Why should they be hiring you for your services? What skills are they looking for specifically? And we'll talk about a few of those, but this is part of our debate afterwards as well. And I would like you, in fact, before I move on, I would like you to think about that. So let's go on to that question. And at your tables, why don't you briefly take about 1 or 2 minutes to talk about what kind of skills do you think you need to learn or should be learning in the next 12 to 24 months that will continue to make you valuable in what you do, that you don't have today, or that you need to improve in order to make you valuable. Just have that conversation at your desks, and then we'll just have a few shout-outs, okay, afterwards. Gracias. Okay. I'd like to, I know you're going to, it's a great conversation for you to continue to have. I'd like to have just one or two responses. It's always a good sign when people are still talking, I think. No. Okay. 2 more minutes. One more minute. Okay, I'll give you 1 more minute. Okay, all right. 1 more minute. 1 more minute, okay. Okay. So that was the 1 minute. And before we, thank you. Before we hear from some of you, I would like all of you to stand up and turn around. I'd like you to stand up and turn around, look at the cameras, because I want you to wave hello to all the online attendees who have been patiently waiting, talking to themselves. Unless there were like one or two of them in the room together. Great, thank you. All right, okay, good. There you go. That's a shout out to all the online attendees, wherever you are in the world. There they are, look. There, the pictures of them, look. All right, so what was the discussion about here? Right over here, please stand.
Yes.
Yes, so what were some of the skills or thoughts you had? Discuss.
I think the number one need is structured, targeted, fit-for-purpose access to artificial intelligence tools, and also access to resources, people or websites or experts who evaluate these tools for us. Tools that are fit for purpose, especially well, since we are talking about our industry. This would be, I believe, this would have a multiplier effect on what we do currently. First of all, to get rid of repetitive tasks, and second, to add other processes like terminology extraction, for example, which is, in my humble opinion, the most valuable tool that interpreters and translators use these days.
Okay, great, thank you. So specifically around tools, knowledge about the tools and support in understanding what those tools are and how they can help, right? To be automating, I guess, as well, what you're doing. Not necessarily automating or simplifying? Just to clarify.
Getting rid of repetitive tasks is part of what we need.
Okay.
Terminology extraction is not a repetitive task. It's a creative task that takes a lot of time. I mean, you're not an interpreter, I guess.
Indeed. No, I'm not.
When we are given a 200-page document, even in electronic format, before the conference that starts in 1 hour,
right.
Such a tool would be an invaluable tool for us to be able to engage with the conference.
Got you. All right. Thank you for that. Thank you for clarifying, at least for me. Okay, something very different. Yes, thank you, Livia. Go ahead, please. No, I think it should be working. Try it. No, here you go. Try this one. Try that one.
So basically, I think most of us agree that we have to learn how to use AI as a tool the best way. But I want to go a step further, because what I've seen, I have been taking several workshops and boot camps and whatever, and it's such a cognitive overload. We need to know how to use it and how to practice using it. So my proposal, I have a proposal, is basically to get someone, and there are people out there, and actually from FIT Latam and from Riterm, they have been doing stuff like this, to have it organized like a remote synchronic course, sort of like a university course once a week for several weeks, where you have the time to learn, practice, not just regurgitate, but process it, do your homework, and turn it back and get the feedback. Because that's, I think, the only way we'll be able to do it, because there's so much, and actually there's so many people out there just saying that they can teach and they have no idea what they're doing. So I think that is something that we need, and that's my proposal that we should do.
Thank you very much. Indeed, there's a lot of training out there on AI, as you can imagine. As you can imagine, we do a lot of that too. I've been very fortunate to be working with AI since 2017, so a long time now in this particular industry of technology as well. Who discussed something beyond AI in terms of skills? Yes. Oh, the table that asked for the extra minute. So I expect something extremely special now coming from yourselves. Extremely special.
Hi, Lima.
Hey, do you want to, okay, you have to stand and get applause. Applause for that, right? Exactly.
So we talked about two things that I want to put out there on the table. Thing number one was how we interpreters need to learn better public speaking skills at large, because sometimes we're working in the booth, but other times we're working on stages, we're working in consecutive, and we're also interacting with our clients, perhaps going over a proposal or something like that. And then we also talked about how we need to be so much better about business, forecasting.
Business acumen. Business acumen.
Yes.
Okay.
The forecasting, the finance, negotiation, everything business. We need, I'm going to steal Heidi's suggestion, but we need a business boot camp.
Okay, very good.
Thanks.
I imagine one of the things might be value-driven pricing. What value do you bring? Right? That question is going to come more and more and more and more. It's coming to, I work in the event industry. We do 5,000 events a year globally. 5,000. Right? So that's a lot.
More like persuasion of the client.
Persuasion. So one of the things we talk about, because already we are being faced with clients saying to us, yeah, but you know what? We can do this with AI. And we're like, really? Okay. So here's why, and we basically provide a value-based, persuasive dialogue, conversations. Well, this is what we bring to the table that is unique or different, or that you cannot get with technology. But working together with technology is where the power is. So this is part of the dialogue in question. We can take a question now. I'm fine. I'm flexible. We can do that. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. That we were speaking about, okay, in order to persuade, you need to know what is out there. You need to know how to use the tools. Like we were speaking about, she uses Microsoft Copilot for her extraction, for her glossaries. I use the summarizer on Acrobat sometimes when I have a huge document and I want to. So I think that first of all, we have to be knowledgeable about what exists and not feel intimidated by it, because how can we persuade if we don't know what's there? We kind of know, we can mention it, but we really have to know.
Yeah, it comes back down to the knowledge piece again. What is out there? What are the capabilities? And having that sort of awareness also shows that you have credibility of knowing this is what you're dealing with, with a client. We can provide this along with this and this and this. And this is the landscape of the world of interpretation. Technology and human together. I think that's important. Oh, we lost our slide deck. Can we put it back up on the screen, please? Okay, so let's move on, because I've got a couple more interactive questions for you. Now, what's interesting is coming back to skills, and thank you for sharing that. There's a few other skills that I'm going to trigger you to think about in a couple of slides. But this slide is probably the most technical one, and if any of you are into physics, you might understand this. Can anyone interpret, that's the right word here, interpret what this slide is saying? If I had a prize, I'd give it to you if you get it right. But I don't. Half-life, yes, exactly. It's like in Half-Life in Pharma. So go ahead. Do you think you...
What we learned today will be irrelevant tomorrow.
Right, what we learned today will be irrelevant tomorrow. So actually, to translate it from the 5-year mark here, what we learned 10 years ago is actually obsolete today. Half of what we learned 5 years ago is pretty much irrelevant today. However, it's no longer 5 years in most cases. It's less. It's 2.5 to 3 years now. It's like tomorrow, yes. What you learned yesterday is out of date tomorrow, yeah. That is a scary thing. So I'm coming, you're in the interpretation world, that's your profession. My profession is learning and development, adult learning. I was using this already 5 years ago. So this is out of date. That's what's scary. My biggest pressure in my work every single day is keeping up with this. Because the expectations are going through the roof of our 2,000 global workforce. Saying, we need it now. We want training, we want this, we want this. But guess what? When we do provide it, they don't have time. Interesting. Because they're pressurized delivering events all the time with multiple deadlines. You know the pressure on that. So this is it. And as it says right here, as time goes by, this number continues to decrease. Now, again, let me translate this one. This one is a length of career. The average now is becoming, as you're younger, you're going to be working maybe for 60 years. I'm fortunate to say I'm in the twilight age of my career now. Twilight. Not long to go, I hope. But the median year is about 4.1. And again, that was in 2022. Now it's going down to about 2.5 in a career. What does that mean? It also means that you have to constantly be learning to stay relevant, doesn't it? If we're working longer and we're changing jobs. Now, for most of you, I guess this is a very interesting business you're in. You probably remain in that role, interpretation, for your career. Will it stay like that? I don't know. I'm not an expert. How is it going to change? What do you know is going to happen 3 years from now, 5 years from now? What do you have in the horizon for you? Where are you going to be 3, 5 years? Can you answer that question? I can't even answer. I don't know how you can. It's very difficult, right? Now, when we think about the future skills, coming back to skills specifically, what are, and this is a sample set of skills that the research in the World Economic Forum, from McKinsey, from so many organizations, if we compile a lot of the skills that they are researching. So it's not, of course, to the world of interpreters. This is something I think you need to continue to have the dialogue on. But what are the skills are they saying in the next 3 to 4 or 5 years are going to be more and more important compared to where we are today? So, first of all, there's the high-tech side. Okay, I know the writing is a bit small. I won't go through every single one of them, but you can see what they are. And now, remember, you answered the question, I don't know which skills I need. Remember, you said that. Majority of you said that. I don't know which skills maybe that I need to focus on for the future. Maybe some of these might trigger you to think, oh, wait a minute, I hadn't thought about that. Collaboration virtually, that's a huge skill to have. Virtual collaboration, just one example, right? Of course. Of course, AI literacy, no doubt about it, that's probably the biggest number one thing. By the way, before generative AI came into the scene 2.5 years ago, by the way, AI has been there for a few decades, right? We know that. AI has been there for a lot longer. Generative AI, the key word is generative, has only been there for about 2.5 years, even if they were working on it before. In all of the lists that I've worked on for the top 10 skills in the past 20 years, AI was nowhere. If it was like at number 10 or 11 or 12 or off the scale. It wasn't anywhere. Now, it's probably the number one skill on the digital side. AI literacy, right? Being proficient in AI, whatever that might mean for your profession. But what about the other side? What about this side? The high touch, as I call it. Emotional intelligence, effective communication. And again, this is just a sample, okay? These are the top ones that are being rated right now. Decision making, client service orientation. This can be linked very much to what we just talked about. The business side of things, the value side of things, for example. We're talking about complex problem solving, coaching, mentoring, and feedback, project and collaborative management, creativity and critical thinking. These are the ones that are the top skills that are being cited in all of the research coming from the top consulting firms as well as the HR firms and so on, and learning and development associations that I'm seeing on a regular basis. However, this word came up earlier from one of your speakers, reinvention. This is something you need to become comfortable with. I have reinvented my career 4 times. 4 times. And what I've learned the most, this number one skill, is this one. And I mentioned it earlier. The number one skill, if you can learn how to learn, which sounds crazy, right? Learning how to learn is a skill. I encourage you to focus on that first. If you learn how to learn in today's world, absorbing knowledge and developing your skills through all the different sources that you can find online nowadays, but also through mentorship, through coaching, through feedback, through peer networking, through your association, through your chapters, that is powerful. Make time for that, because that is where your success will lie for the future. Invest time in learning how to learn, and then you will see, you will start to learn even faster than ever before. So that's the number one skill, in my opinion, out of all of that, because then all of that is shaped on the side by learning how to learn, all the other things from the left and right side. Now, if you combine the high touch and high tech together, that, to me, is where the new conference interpreter professional comes in. You need to be comfortable. I think you said that over here. You need to be comfortable with those two together, because you are comfortable maybe on the high touch side, the soft skill side, of course, your functional skills, the general skills that you have, but the technology side, yes, you are using, of course, technology in terms of your equipment that you're using, but there's so much technology that you're talking about that you don't know, that learn to become comfortable with that. And by combining that together, that's what's going to make you stronger and make you unique rather than obsolete. And that is the big thing of all. So how do you feel about the increasing use of generative AI tools in the workplace? How do you feel? So there is that question again for the team at the back. The second question, please, on Menti. Can you please tell me if you're seeing that second question? You should see that one. No, it's the one before. Okay, I need the one before. It's about the preparation. No, it's not that one. The one before. I'll get it back. Nope. It's the previous one. Let me see. That's the last one. Nope. Let's see. We'll get it. Nope. Wait 1 second. Hold on. I'll get it. Don't worry. That's the one. You see it now? You got it now? There you go. Okay. How do you feel about the increasing use of Gen AI tools in the workplace? You need the QR code. There it is. So do you feel very positive? Do you feel somewhat positive? Do you feel neutral? Do you feel somewhat negative or very negative? Yes, question already? Is it a problem? What's it's not working? The code doesn't work.
No, my question would be, whose workplace? My workplace in the booth?
So for you, sorry, it's a very good question, whose workplace? I would say for you in your job role, your function. What you do. Yeah, I guess that's where your workplace is, right? Yes. Okay. Okay. All right. So we're getting the responses coming in. So it's very good. It's about how you're interpreting the question as well, isn't it? Very positive. It's a low, we've got how many votes? 70? It's over 70. Yeah, almost 80 votes. Look at that. So we can see, look, it's very, clear, overwhelmingly, somewhat positive. I see potential, but have some concerns, which I think would make a lot of sense. And concerns and uncertainty comes from not knowing. It's coming back, circling around exactly to what two of you said. It's about not knowing what is capable and what it's possible to do, and the value it provides you in your role and your function. So ultimately, that is not a surprising result at all. There's a handful of you, though, look, just over 20, almost 25 or so, just under 25, that are somewhat negative or negative. So for those of you in the room that might be in that area, I'm not going to ask who those people are. So ask yourself the question, ask yourself and reflect, why am I negative? What is actually causing that anxiety or maybe that fear? And oftentimes fear is, of course, as you know, of the unknown. It's fear of the unknown and being uncertain. So how can you shift your mindset towards, okay, this is something that's not going to go away, as much as some of you in this room may like it to go away. I wish it wasn't there, because it's giving maybe more headaches for us. because the future might be uncertain, which I can understand that. It has been for a lot of us in the workplace, of course it is. But how do you translate that mindset to make it more positive and say, what are the opportunities this can bring me? And therefore building my knowledge. So thanks for responding to that question. Let's go back to the slide deck, please. Okay. Yeah. I want to see if that was the right one. Oh, yeah. Here we go. So Microsoft, of course, we're all familiar with Microsoft. Somebody mentioned Copilot. They did a study last year. I was at their London Experience Center doing a workshop on AI with Microsoft 2 months ago in London. And they did a survey of 31,000 people across 31 countries. They also did the research using LinkedIn and a lot of their customers of Microsoft, which is most companies today. What did they find out? And I'm going to share some statistics with you. Some of this might mean something. Maybe it's going to be relevant. Maybe you say, I don't know what that means. But what we're finding right now in the workplace, 3 out of 4 people are using AI at work. 75% of people are already using it. 46% only started less than 6 months ago out of the ones they researched. So it's still very, very new for a lot of organizations, right, and people. What's interesting, though, is BYOAI is bring your own AI, is not just for the Gen Zs or Gen Zs. Sorry, in the UK we say Z, Gen Zs. I don't know why I'm saying Z, Gen Z. I know who says Zs, by the way. Employees across every age group are bringing their own AI tools to work. Even if organizations have banned it, I know many clients or associations or whatever have banned AI for whatever reason they've chosen. They said because of confidentiality reasons and privacy, and we get that. We do understand. That was the number one thing I did as the head of global learning, is we did a course on confidentiality and ethics related to AI. Before we actually trained our people how to use AI, we actually talked about the confidentiality and privacy issues related to AI. But as you can see, even the baby boomers are bringing their own AI tools on their smartphones. Whether the organization likes it or not, they are using it. It's effectively done. 79% of leaders believe AI is a business imperative to stay competitive. Absolutely. And a surprising 60% say their organization lacks a plan and a vision to implement it. So while they believe it's going to be absolutely imperative, they don't actually have a plan or a strategy to implement it. And 59% worry about quantifying the productivity gains of AI. So again, what does that mean to you? One of the things we're finding is that indeed people are using AI, but they cannot quantify its value or its impact. So that's something for you to think about. So if you're using AI in digital, how is that bringing value as well? What you bring versus what technology brings to the table. That's a good thing. So how about this? This was the other question, the last question on Menti. How prepared do you feel to adapt to the changes in the required skills due to technological advancements? How prepared do you feel to adapt to the changes? Whatever you interpret this to be. I'm curious. Very prepared, somewhat prepared, not very prepared, or not prepared at all. So what do we have percentage-wise? Okay, let's see. It's not necessarily surprising, I guess. I'd love to see those very prepared. That's good. They're very, very positive people in the room, even if it's representing 11%. Who are you? Where are you? You're going to be the mentors and the coaches and the trainers, by the way. So stand up and be counted, and the association is going to tap into your skill set, right? And your mindset and your positivity. So very prepared, 13%. Not surprising, I guess, again, somewhat prepared, 56%. And 23, what? Just, 33% almost not very prepared or not prepared at all. So again, I think coming back to your interpretation, is that mentally, well, yes, it probably is what you're thinking in terms of like, how do I feel about this, right? Am I ready for this? Am I anxious about this? Am I pushing it away? Whatever's coming into your mind now as we speak, you're probably on that zone there. Okay, what can you do about that? And that's something for you to walk away with today and say, what will I do about that? Don't push it aside. That's my recommendation, is try to tackle that head on. Okay. Slide deck, please. As we come to a close on the presentation, we'll go into a panel in just a moment. Okay, if we can just put the slides back up. Okay, there. So, indeed, we are closing on the presentation here in the world of AI, automation, robotics, Internet of Things, blockchain. With all of that in mind, take a look at the last statement at the bottom. That, if you can't read it, I'll read it to you. Sorry, because it's right at the bottom. The value add of the human worker will focus on essentially enduring human skills, such as intuition, creativity, and emotional intelligence. Intuition, creativity, and emotional intelligence. We have hope as human beings. Of course we do. Regardless of what people are saying, those doomsday people are saying what's going to happen with AI in the coming decade or so. Of course we're here for a reason. But these are the things, intuition, creativity, emotional intelligence, empathy, critical thinking, all the things that you saw earlier is what's going to make us stand out and continue to make us relevant. Focus on developing what we call, this is an interesting word to interpret, combinatorial. It's a combination. I see the interpreter at the back, I'm like, I don't know. What is that? Combinatorial. Combined, right? Combinatorial skills. What does that mean? You have expertise. You all have your functional expertise as interpreters. You have your general skills. You have your digital skills. These are the skills you need to do your job. Combine that with your social, your emotional intelligence skills. And ultimately, those are the skills needed to work with people and understand humans. As much as that sounds corny or cheesy, it's probably the number one thing that I'm seeing talked about in the workplace today. And I tell you one thing, some of the younger generation are struggling with that. The younger generation is struggling with the social. And I think I'm sure you know why. For those of you that have children, I have a 17-year-old son, most of their time is spent where? Unfortunately. There's a value to that in their room, exactly, in their room, on their phone, with 3 different screens on there and on their phone at the same time, with multiple displays. That connectivity with us as human beings is something that seems to be lacking in the younger generation, as hard as that is to say, because I also speak about my own child. But how do I encourage him and all the children to spend more time with one another like we used to do when we were younger, for those that are still a little bit wiser in age? That's combinatorial. And human plus AI is indeed probably the most powerful thing we have in front of us in the future. AI is there to enhance our lives. It's not there to replace them. And think about your life journey. Remember this? We used to study. We used to work. We used to retire. And rest in peace. However, we need to reimagine the future journey. We have to study, yes. Actually, study has changed as well. I won't even go into how academics is not really preparing us for the workplace. We have to work and work, and this is interesting. We have to learn, we have to unlearn, we have to relearn, and learn again, and reskill, and upskill, and reinvent, and repeat. And maybe we get to retire. So if you want to stay relevant, embrace continuous and upskilling. Stay relevant. New technology changes the landscape. Invest in your learning and build a growth mindset, of course. Stay curious. Because, as Alvin Toffler said, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Thank you. Okay. So with that said, what would you like to do, Frederick? We have some guests to come on stage or
Yes,
Q&A?
we do. We have volunteered more colleagues. So please come on stage. You know who you are. Avinash, would you like to sit there as well?
Yes, sure. Okay.
So Laurence, Fernanda, Sébastien, and Babette.
Oh, we need to have the mics, right?
You do have one?
I have one. No, just okay. All right. Oh yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, sure. Okay, good. Welcome. You're going to have to introduce yourselves, I'm sure.
Okay, I will go first. I'll apologize to the interpreters and the audience. My voice is really bad, but for a good reason, I was in Machu Picchu. So, sorry about that. I'm Fernanda from Brazil. I'm the outgoing AB rep for Brazil. And we have a new bureau, and we're here finally to discuss more and more about AI and the human side of our profession. Thank you all very much.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. I'm Babette. I'm from the Belgium region, and I'm a private market interpreter, basically.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sébastien, a Frenchman from Bogota, and here as a member of the SAM region and of ATPD as well.
Hello, everyone. I'm Laurence. I come from Lisbon. I'm French, so I belong to the Portuguese region. I'm also a member of CALIP.
Great. Well, welcome to the stage. This is going to be more of a dialogue, but I thought it would be great to just get your initial thoughts and what triggered each of you from what I just shared, actually, and maybe to the response to some of the questions as well that were asked. Fernanda, what about you? Start with you. Yeah.
Okay, first I would like to say that I really envy you all for your voices. You sounded so
it's a great skill.
Nice. You all, okay. But I was so happy when you said that you could sound cheesy, because really when I thought about your speech today, I immediately thought about empathy. If AI one day comes to have the empathy that a human being can have with regards to the content, to the speakers involved in communication that is being interpreted, then I would be really scared. But AI cannot do that, and will take a long time, if ever. Humankind can do that. We can have empathy and perform a magnificent job with this skill.
Great, thanks for that, Fernanda. Yes. Yeah, Babette.
Hi. Yes, I thought to myself when you were speaking about the exponential growth of technological developments and the hard time that people have to adapt to it, that the human being is not quite as fast in adapting to it. I thought maybe that would be an opportunity for us to accompany, because you were not talking only about the individual, but also about the organizations, right, meaning our clients. Maybe that would be an opportunity for us where we could accompany them, because I do feel that most of us are very passionate about our profession, that we chose it for a reason. We invested a lot. We keep on investing in further training in quite a different way, I think. Many are far traveled and have seen lots of parts in the world and a very good understanding of different cultures. So it's very hard to unlearn and relearn and repeat, for another profession if you've chosen that profession.
Absolutely. Yeah. Seb, what about you? What sort of stood out for you?
As much as I really enjoyed your conference, I must say that I'm sometimes a little tired of hearing about artificial intelligence of late.
I can understand why.
It just seems to be everywhere. But thank you very much for putting it the way you did, and for precisely insisting on the importance of the human skills, which definitely do make a difference. But of course, I'm aware that it's coming, and having interpreted in a couple of AI conferences, it's clearly about to cause a sea change in the world as we know it. And I must say, I'm just not very optimistic about what I'm hearing in general, unfortunately. I feel that the tech giants are more about replacing human tasks in general rather than completing or augmenting the human being. And the general AI seems to be an obsession now for tech giants, and I'm not seeing that with very positive eyes, really. I think we're a bit still at a honeymoon stage on AI, that we think that we're going to be able to save a lot of our human specifics and tasks. But you were talking about intuition, creativity, emotional intelligence. I'm afraid that this might be something that AI also learns how to do eventually. So, I mean, I don't want to be, sorry, but I mean, I thought I could share that. It's also good to, share it with other people. But yeah, so I'm sometimes just tempted to stay away from AI, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I know that I don't really have a choice. So of course I'm learning about computer-assisted interpreting. There are extremely talented and smart people in this association who are teaching us those skills, and I'd like to thank them very much for that, for making so much time to learn about those tools. I also know that AIC is currently doing a great job at thinking about AI and its impact on our profession, so I'm also proud of seeing that this association to which I belong to, very proudly so, is really trying to stay at the forefront of AI and the way it's impacting us. But yeah, the thing I'm definitely sure about is that I will convince my son that he probably should not study interpreting.
Well, so before I go on to Laurence, though, just to follow up on that, I think it is interesting. I mean, I'm working a lot with some of the big tech companies like Microsoft. I mentioned I was just there speaking with the head of global learning for Microsoft. Again, I think it's that fear factor that I said earlier on, that we don't know where all of this is going. That creates that uncertainty for us in the different professions, including mine. I mean, learning and development, if I hadn't been working with AI from 2017, as I said, it was a different type of AI than generative AI. It's another version, right? And trying to keep up with that, I could see myself fearing it even more. So I found a way, and again, I'm not saying what I do is the same as you. Of course, it's not. But I can say learning and development, if you could see what I was doing with AI, I was creating whole courses with AI within minutes. But the domain expertise that I have, the domain expertise in learning and adult education, made it that I was using that to speed up the process and automate things. So I found it as a way of an advantage rather than a deterrent. So I think that I mentioned the mindset shift. It's such a critical factor. And I'm not trying to convince you, Seb. That's the last thing I want to do. But I think what I've learned with those people I've worked with who have been in similar positions like yourself, the way you're thinking, is that once you start to see the value of what it can bring and how you can use it to enhance what you do, but that takes knowledge first. What can it do to help me in my profession? That's when I think you'll see that change up here. But again, I'm not saying, therefore, everything is going to be wonderful and rosy. It's not at all, okay? Just to be clear. I think there are challenges ahead, no doubt. Yeah. Laurence, what about you?
I was thrilled by your presentation and very happy to hear about the human factor and the way you put things out. You're dealing here, maybe you don't know it because you don't know the interpreting business, you're dealing here with a special breed, and I'm not talking about AIC, I'm talking private market sector, because we're very adaptable. We're forward-looking. We're, listen to our clients. We adapt, basically. So we have very high neuroplasticity skills.
Right. The growth mindset.
And I think what you talked about is neuroplasticity.
I did, yes.
This is general in interpreters, but it's higher still in this group. We have innate capacity, but we've trained it over the years, so there's a cumulative knowledge with years. We have an ability to adapt to situation, speech, speed, subject, circumstances, etc. And these are skills that are invaluable in the modern times that I think we really have to value. They're not written, it's not something that we sell, but it's really one of our main added values, this capacity to adapt.
Yeah.
And coming to what you specifically said, I really think that the artificial intelligence should not be feared the way we fear it. It's a tool that needs to be used, but our human qualities, expertise, and added value will not be replaced so easily. The capacity to read emotions.
Correct, yeah.
A machine can repeat and will repeat a speech beautifully. The machine may put the tone. The machine will learn to say the same sentence in a neutral voice, in an emotional voice, in an angry voice. It will learn it, I have no doubt. But our ability to read emotions is ours and animals, the animal realm of which we belong. Plus, communication with words. We're not the only breed that speaks or that has language. All mammals have languages, and I think other species communicate as well. But we communicate with words. And with words, we're able to construct very complex reasonings linked with emotions. And I don't think the machine will be able to do that, but maybe I'm an optimist. So thank you for your presentation. I really enjoyed it.
I think it's great to have different perspectives. We need that, right? That's what our mind needs, to be thinking differently and to be challenged. We need to be challenged. And we need to have reasonings for our thoughts and our opinions. And that's why I like, said what you said. Because I need to be reminded of that fear factor sometimes, or that uncertainty, which I had for a long, long time. And only now, and as I said, it's only because I've been working for so long with technology and AI that I've got to this phase of like, wow, I could see it's making life so much easier. And again, I'm only speaking about my profession, but I think you will find that with exactly what you said, what is the key differentiator? So ask yourself this question. And you should be asking yourself this question, if AI can do 50, 60, or 70% of what I do today, if it can do that, what's the unique part that I bring? Ask yourself that question and find an answer to it. So if you don't know, find it. And if you don't have that skill, although, well, you've just given that, your answer is the emotional side, the ability to adapt, the ability to have that connection, right? That humanness, I think, in your profession is so fundamental. That client relationships that you build, that trust that you build, the credibility that you have, the brand that you build with your clients as you as a human being. It's now sounding corny. Who the hell was starting to talk about human beings before? Now we have to say humans because of technology, right? We weren't even talking about humans. Now we are. Laurence, you were going to say something.
Yeah, because this is also something that I very strongly believe. The society right now is afraid, generally speaking, we're all afraid of AI. We don't know what's going on. Everyone is feared to be replaced, not just us, interpreters, just everyone in the companies. White collars that were protected, inverted commas, are not protected anymore. They're scared.
That's right.
Okay. These people are humans. They have families. They have kids.
That's right.
Pay for studies for their kids. These people don't want some changes. These people are part of the humankind. And I think the resistance that I hope will emerge is a resistance for replacement. Maybe the finance people will want to replace us collectively, not interpreters. But we're more numerous than the finance people. And at the end of the day, it's a political decision. What kind of society do I want? Do I want my kids to be replaced? I don't. So, at my humble level as a clerk in a company, I will act in a specific way. And this multiplied by many people around society, around, companies. So I really think that the key is going back to what makes us human. We will learn because we are very intelligent. We have this capacity. I think the human is not very intelligent in general, but we have that kind of intelligence. But we will go back to basic skills, connecting, emotions, talking, and indeed the young people will struggle. Yeah. And we, the elder people, the wise people, will have something to convey, to learn and to transmit.
Right, yeah. You all have a role to play. Us wiser people, as we like to call ourselves, a little bit we have a role to play, certainly with the younger generation, no doubt. Or each and every single one of us here that may be a few aged in years, we have something to give. We still have something to give. A lot of power, I think, in terms of our life experience and wisdom to hand down to the younger generation. You're going to say something, Fernanda.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm very happy to see a lot of trainers here in the room. We've been training new interpreters, and it's really hard to see how they manage technology and forget about the human part of it. So it's really important for us trainers to remind them of that. I graduated 35 years ago, so I went, in my school years, I used a typing machine, then the computer, and then went on, changing the technologies and following and learning and unlearning and relearning, and we have to keep doing that. I'm one of the positive people that voted there. Anyway, I think we can do that, but we also have to convey this new learning and keeping technology and the human side at the same pace or in the same balance. And AIC is doing an amazing job with the ATBD, the PRIMS campaign that I hope you all are following and communicating this campaign on the human and how important the human aspect of interpretation is compared to AI being used all over the world and in all places. I hope we can use the association for that, to learn, unlearn, relearn, and teach not only the new interpreters, but the experienced ones as well.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Actually, if I may, I think we're quite good at that already, because we do also have a network of the so-called consultant interpreters. I don't know whether you're familiar with that, but that's people amongst our colleagues who organize teams of interpreters for clients, and we have quite a lot of individual interpreters amongst ourselves who maintain excellent contact with their clients, and basically the confidence and trust that builds up over years pays out, exactly. Especially in times like that, when the uncertainty is such that neither we perhaps know which way our profession is going, nor do they know what their organizations will look like in 5 years' time. But it does, you reminded us all of the fact that we also need to do a lot of upskilling or reskilling in that other area, because what Laurence was saying is absolutely true. We're very good already with, as human beings, and understanding what people need and adapting to new situations, but perhaps not keeping up enough with the solutions that are available in the market and that might work for our clients, because our clients want tailor-made solutions for them. And that's a big difficulty also. You really have to find a tailor-made solution for every single one, and you can't repeat that for others, not exactly at least.
Right. So just questioning, with some of your clients, what kind of conversations are you having with your clients related to, and I will bring it up because it's probably the hot topic here in terms of tech, I mean, and AI. Are you having conversations about it? What's happening with them?
Personally, not that much. And I'd like to say that as pessimistic as I may have sounded in my first answer, I was really referring to AI like in general. It's true, and I know that in the linguistic industry, especially in interpretation, we're not that threatened yet. Although it may come, but really according to what I heard and what most of us know here, it's true that we may not be out of a job tomorrow, although I would still probably advise my 1-year-old son to think twice before he becomes an interpreter, but that's another story. Now, I don't really talk about this topic with my clients yet because they haven't really requested it. I know that some of my colleagues in the market where I work in, which is Colombia in South America, have experienced, or have been faced with some of their clients, especially in the medical sector, telling them that they will not resort to their services this time because they're experiencing an AI tool. Now, we're still waiting for feedback on those experiences, but I'm pretty sure that it wasn't that convincing. But it's not really a conversation that we're having, at least not on my market at the moment. And of course, I'd be very interested to know if it's a conversation that some of you here are already having with some of your clients in your markets, and whether some of those experiences have been interesting or convincing. I wouldn't think so, but of course I stand to be corrected.
Laurence? Any conversations? Yeah, just curious about any conversations client related.
I've had, unfortunately, I've had conversations about this with clients. I lost 2 quotes to AI I also won quotes over AI.
What was the differentiator?
Confidentiality, mainly confidentiality, mainly,
Right.
and sensitivity. Without the confidential part, AI today, I'm not sure about tomorrow, today, AI is often good enough, depending on the platform, if the sentence is simple, subject, verb, complement, if there are not too many nuances, no references, literary references, poetic references, philosophical, political references. If it's not one of those political speeches that we all know how to interpret, that are full of, hidden sides. You choose this verb and this word because if you choose another one, you create havoc. We know that. We know how to do that. The machine doesn't know how to do that yet. So simple sentences, technical speech, not complicated reasoning, the machine can do it. When it comes to confidential, subtle, philosophical, political, even a negotiation. I won a quote over a negotiation conversation, said you can't use AI for that. You will need time to think. You will need to feel the sound of the voice of the interpreter that will give you an information about what's going on in the room that the machine will not give you.
Right.
The pause the interpreter will do, rhetorical pause, will give you an information that the machine won't be able to give you. And this information may be important, I don't know. I'm not in the negotiation.
Right.
So I lost quotes and I won quotes over AI.
Yeah. And I think there's going to be more of you having to get used to that. If you haven't had that yet, that's probably going to happen. And again, it's being real. It's not about trying to say this is all negative, but it's something that you have to be prepared for. And therefore, the more you build your knowledge, the more you build your uniqueness, as what we've been talking about already this afternoon, the more you're going to stand out as being the value add that the client deserves. But that will require you to continue to evolve, and that is Darwinism, I guess. There's a level of Darwinism here, right? It is about the strongest that survive. And that's what I feel we're in, that sort of race at the moment to some degree. As we wrap up, I'm curious to know if there's any questions also from the audience, if you have any questions for anyone up here or myself, or if you have any questions for me based on what you also were curious to learn more about or were surprised to see something specifically in the presentation.
No, I agree with Laurence, and as she said that I was really amazed with your presentation and how much it really matched a lot of things that I have been talking and discussing with my colleagues and thinking about. I just have a lot to thank you for that, because
I'm
sometimes...
glad to have validated that.
Yeah, exactly. Validating what we have been discussing, which is great.
It's great, good.
Indeed, yeah, I totally agree, and I think you were spot on. And something that I do see with my clients on a daily basis is indeed the value they put on the human interaction. That's for sure. That they just like speaking to a human and making informed decision with human interaction. So I believe it's definitely here to stay and something we should cultivate. Before I give the mic to Laurence. Just would like to tell you that the ATPD met yesterday all day, and of course AI was one of the important topics we discussed, and that we are hoping to put together a very interesting training for all members and non-members of the association in the coming triennium. So if you are not registered to receive ATPD newsletters, please do, because you might be receiving very interesting news in your mailboxes in the coming months and years.
Great promotion there. Wonderful.
I just would like to come back to one of the questions you asked and one of the options of answers, which was lack of time.
Yes.
I believe it's not lack of time, it's lack of mental time, which is related to another of your slides. the ability to integrate new knowledge. The technology goes faster than the human ability to take new knowledge. Right, so we can either run after that and tire and exhaust ourselves and rip, or we can just assume that's how it is. We won't be able to go faster than the machine. So let's learn as much as we can at the rhythm and the pace that we can, enough to be able to speak with our clients, to have arguments to put to them, while still learning without pressure, because we won't beat the machine on that. And concentrate on what the machine can't do, going back to what we already said, emotions.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said that much better myself, because it's absolutely true. You're never going to, we cannot realistically at all keep up with the pace of change. That's only going to get faster. But the key here, and it comes back to that number one skill that I said that I think you should pick up on, is learning how to learn. There is so many opportunities, even if we're all under time pressure, which we are. We have our own pressures in our daily lives, not just from work, but our families and just living in general, traveling for work, whatever it might be, that we don't take time for ourselves to continue to evolve sometimes. At least I say that for myself, even as a learning professional. I still feel that I'm not taking, but the fact that I know that I need to take, even if it's 5 minutes in the morning before I open my email, those 5 minutes, what I do is, what's my day look like, or what's my next couple of days look like? Oh, I've got a challenging conversation coming up. So I've got access to, like all of us do, even free resources, but okay, in our company, of course, we have our learning management system. We have things that are only 3-minute bite-sized pieces of content, and I will actually relate what my day is looking like, or my next couple of days, and I'll make it relevant in terms of what I learn. Whether I read an article or a blog post or listen to a podcast, I'll make it relevant. And that's a behavior I've built in now. 2 to 3 times a week I do that. And that takes 5 minutes in the morning before opening email. Because what happens when you open email? Boom. That's not where you get stuck into it for the rest of the day, and you get no work done. So try to build in your behaviors. I think that's the most important thing, learning how to learn. So yeah. With that said, I don't know if you have any final thoughts or comments, because I'd like to thank you. Is there? Yes. Oh, yes. Is there a question or a comment?
No. I think
comment. Question.
I just thought Fede wants us to have no thoughts now. Just applaud.
I was wrapping up already.
No, I just want to thank you all very much for having this amazing discussion.
Yes, great. It was really very inspiring. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone. And thanks to all of you. Thank you for this afternoon. Appreciate it. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Let's take a picture.
Sure.
Sitting or standing?
Standing.
This is for you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Give me the mic, Fernando.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you very much. We now have a coffee break till 4:30, and we will resume for the closing speech. Thank you.